The coupling of the century. What is up, Spurs fans? Welcome back to the channel. The 2026 NBA Draft is officially in the books, and while the major media networks are busy obsessing over the top 5 picks, Brian Wright and the San Antonio Spurs quietly pulled off what might be the absolute steal of the night at number 20 overall. They selected Jayden Quaintance, the 6'10", 253-pound explosive modern big man out of Kentucky. Now, if you just glance at his stat sheet from last year, you might wonder why the front office used a first-round pick on a guy who only logged 4 games in a Wildcats jersey. But if you look deeper, if you look at the physical tools, what he did at Arizona State before his injury, and his absurd 7'5" wingspan, you realize that San Antonio didn't just draft a backup center, they drafted a defensive powerhouse who could completely reshape the identity of this front court. We all saw what happened last season. This Spurs team went 62-20, fought all the way to the NBA Finals, and proved that the timeline has officially accelerated. But during that grueling playoff run against physical teams, one thing became glaringly obvious. Victor Wembanyama is the ultimate defensive weapon, but he shouldn't have to take a physical beating down low for 48 minutes a night just to keep the paint secure. Enter Jaden Quaintance. At just 18 years old, Jayden Quaintance is built like a brick wall, but moves like a wing. When you pair a 7'5" wingspan next to Wembanyama's historic 8-foot wingspan, you are quite literally building an impenetrable wall in San Antonio. In this video, we are going to break down exactly how Jayden Quaintance's unique defensive versatility, rim-running prowess, and raw physical presence can elevate the Spurs' all-around play. Then, we are going to dive into the ultimate laboratory experiment. What does it look like if Mitch Johnson decides to throw caution to the wind and put Quaintance in the starting lineup next season alongside Wemby, Dylan Harper, and Devin Vassell? The tape don't lie, unpacking Jayden Quaintance's skill set. To understand why Quaintance was available at pick 20 in the first place, we have to contextualize why Quaintance was available at pick 20. Originally a 5-star prospect who reclassified, Quaintance was the youngest player in college basketball during his freshman year at Arizona State. He immediately dominated defensively, setting freshman records with 63 total blocks and earning Big 12 All-Defensive honors at just 17 years old. He averaged nearly 3 blocks a game against grown men. Then, tragedy struck in February 2025 when he tore his ACL and meniscus. He transferred to Kentucky to play for Mark Pope, made a highly anticipated debut in December where he dropped 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks against St. John's, but ongoing knee swelling limited him to just 4 games before the staff shut him down to protect his long-term future. But here is what the rest of the league missed. The talent didn't vanish. The explosive verticality is still there. The frame is still there, as general manager Brian Wright noted after the draft. He's just scratching the surface of what he could be. Had he not been hurt, he's probably not sitting there at pick 20. Let's talk about the defense first, because that's where Jayden is going to make his money in Pop's system. Jayden isn't a traditional, slow-footed drop coverage big who gets cooked on the perimeter. He's incredibly agile. In his own words during his introductory press conference, "The Spurs like to switch a lot. I'm a very versatile defender. I can guard multiple positions. That's one thing that will be able to make us stand out." When you watch his film from Arizona State, his hip mobility when switching onto guards is elite for his size. He can slide his feet out on the perimeter, contain a driving guard, force them into a tough pull-up, or use that 7'5" wingspan to recover and swat the shot from behind. But when he's playing in the paint, he is an absolute bruiser. He uses his 253-pound frame to dislodge offensive players, secure inside position, and anchor the defensive glass. Last year, the Spurs occasionally struggled against hyper-physical low-post centers who tried to wear Wembanyama down by repeatedly banging into his chest. Quaintance provides an immediate antidote to that. He loves the contact. He plays with an edge, a level of raw physicality that sets a tone for the entire roster. Offensively, Jayden Quaintance keeps it simple and effective. He is a premier rim runner and a devastating screen setter. In the modern NBA, setting a hard, solid screen is an art form. Quaintance creates massive separation for his ball handlers because guards literally run into a wall when they hit him. Once he frees up the guard, he drops into a hard roll toward the rim. His catch radius is enormous. If you throw the ball anywhere near the square on the backboard, he has the strength and hands to go up, absorb contact, and finish with an emphatic dunk, perfecting the Spurs' front court rotation. So, how does he fit into the grand scheme of things in the Spurs' rotation as a rookie? The beautiful thing about this pick is that it gives Mitch Johnson ultimate strategic flexibility right out of the gate, assuming his rehabilitation keeps him on track for an early season return. Quaintance is the perfect backup center behind Victor Wembanyama. Think about the luxury of having an elite defensive anchor on the floor for all 48 minutes. When Victor goes to the bench to rest, the entire defensive infrastructure usually has to shift. With Quaintance anchoring the second unit alongside guys like Keldon Johnson and Terrace Reed Jr., the Spurs can maintain their high-intensity, aggressive switching defensive scheme without skipping a beat. But the real magic happens when you look at how Quaintance can augment the front court when sharing the floor with Victor. There has been a running debate in the basketball community. Is Victor Wembanyama a power forward or a center? The reality is he's an alien positionless. But defensively and offensively, playing him exclusively at the 5 anchor can sometimes take him away from what makes him most dangerous, his ability to roam, read the quarterback's eyes, and blow up plays as a weak side helper. When you look at this layout, having Quaintance on the floor means he can take the assignment of the opposing team's heaviest, most physical low-post bruiser. If you're playing Denver, Nikola Jokic banged against Victor. If you're playing Philly, Joel Embiid tried to use brute force. With Quaintance in the mix, he handles that physical toll at the block. He handles the boxing out, the heavy contact, the dirty work. This instantly frees up Victor to occupy the roamer role, the exact defense that makes opposing offenses completely panic. Victor can stay near the paint but off the ball, waiting to erase anything that gets past the perimeter defense, while Quaintance ensures that nobody is getting easy putbacks or second-chance points on the offensive glass.
The Mad Lab, Jaden Quaintance as a day one starter. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. Let's build the hypothetical scenario that has every film analyst in the world drooling. What if Jaden Quaintance is so good, so healthy, and so impactful in training camp that Mitch Johnson decides to start him on night 1 next to Victor? Let's look at what that starting lineup would look like. This lineup is an absolute nightmare for opposing coaching staffs. Let's break down the mechanics of how this works on both ends of the floor. Defensively, the two-headed monster. Good luck scoring inside the arc. Seriously, if an opposing guard manages to navigate past a point-of-attack defender, they enter a psychological horror movie. They drive into the lane and see 6'10" Jaden Quaintance meeting them at the dotted line. If they try to loop a pass over him or adjust their shot with a high floater, Victor Wembanyama is swooping in from the weak side to swat it into the third row. Because both Victor and Jaden can fluidly switch onto the perimeter, the Spurs can run a hybrid defensive coverage that completely neutralizes modern pick-and-roll offenses. They can switch everything 1 through 5 without sacrificing an ounce of interior rim protection. Offensively, maximizing the gravity. A lot of critics might look at this lineup and worry about spacing. Quaintance is not a floor spacer right now. His game is strictly inside 10 feet. But look at who he is surrounded by. You have Victor Wembanyama, who functions beautifully as a perimeter threat, capable of hitting deep threes and attacking off the bounce. You have Devin Vassell, one of the premier floor spacers in the league. You have Stephen Castle, whose lockdown defense and playmaking is elite. And Dylan Harper, who can manipulate defenses with his passing. In this ecosystem, Quaintance doesn't need to shoot. His job is to generate vertical gravity. When Castle or Harper runs a pick and roll with Quaintance, he rolls hard to the basket. That forces the opposing team's corner defender to sink into the paint to prevent an easy lob dunk to Quaintance. The second that defender sinks, Harper kicks it out to a wide-open Vassell or Wembanyama on the perimeter for an easy catch-and-shoot triple. The long-term vision and final verdict. Look, we have to keep expectations realistic. Jayden is 18 years old, and he is coming off a complicated knee injury history that required meticulous care. The Spurs staff have already stated they're going to take his rehabilitation incredibly seriously. He won't be rushed, and he likely won't see Summer League action while they clean up his meniscus and build up his structural strength. But when you are building a sustainable championship contender around a generational superstar like Victor Wembanyama, you don't look just at the next 2 months, you look at the next 10 years. By securing Quaintance at number 20, the Spurs insulated their roster with the exact type of modern, physical, switchable, athletic big man required to win at the highest levels of the modern NBA. He brings the grit, the screen setting, and the low-post enforcement that unlocks Victor's ultimate form on both sides of the ball. Whether he starts on day one or anchors a devastating second unit, Jayden Quaintance is an absolute home run for the silver and black. But I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Jayden Quaintance should start next to Wembanyama next season, or do you prefer him coming off the bench as the ultimate backup energy big? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive Spurs analysis, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.